Hey everyone, and welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So over the past year or so, of course, Social Security has been one of the biggest topics going on in Washington, whether or not we should cut benefits, whether or not we should increase benefits. We really just have two conflicting opinions from both sides of the aisle. Now, meanwhile, we have the sitting president in Joe Biden and the top Republican nominee in Donald Trump both saying that we should not be touching Social Security at all, that we should just keep the program as it is, not change anything. However, there are some lawmakers who are saying that because the trust fund is going to be going insolvent within the next 10 years if we don't do anything about it, if we don't actually touch the program and make certain changes, then when the program goes insolvent in 2033, everyone who is receiving Social Security benefits at that point in time will be receiving a benefit cut of 25%. So not only will they not be receiving any type of benefit increase or a COLA increase, but they'll actually be receiving a benefit cut of 25% from what they're currently receiving. So obviously something must be done, and there are some lawmakers in Washington taking steps to make sure that things are done to make sure that the program is solvent and that Social Security benefits actually improve moving forward into the future. So in today's video, we're going to be going over a few different changes that lawmakers are trying to make, and we'll be going over the likelihood of them actually passing. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so diving into the first of many changes that lawmakers in Washington are trying to make this year in 2023. Well, the first one is to eliminate the Social Security double tax. Now, what I mean by that is whenever you're working in your career, out of every single paycheck, depending whether you're an employee working for an employer or if you're self-employed, you're going to pay the FICA tax going to the Social Security Trust Fund of anywhere between 6.2 to 12.4%. If you're an employee, you're going to be paying 6.2% out of each paycheck, and your boss, your employer, is going to be matching that 6.2%. So in total, that's going to be 12.4%. Now, if you're self-employed, you're actually going to be paying the entire 12.4%. So whenever you receive your benefits, you wouldn't think that you would actually have to once again have to pay the 6.2 to 12.4%. Well, unfortunately, some people actually do. And it comes down to different tax brackets. And unfortunately, these brackets for Social Security income to be taxed have not changed really since they were implemented. So these have not been updated. Now, there are some lawmakers in Washington trying to change that, where you could not be taxed at all on the benefits that you later on receive. Because, I mean, if you're paying Social Security tax your entire life on your workings, why are you once again being taxed on the benefits that you're receiving? So there currently is a bill called the Senior Citizens Tax Elimination Act. It was sponsored by Thomas Massie, and it currently actually has 27 co-sponsors. Now, unfortunately, all of these co-sponsors happen to be Republicans. Not a single Democrat is on board with this bill, and really for any bill to pass, it must have bipartisan support. So unless they pick up some Democrats on with this bill, more than likely it is not going to pass. Now, the second change that they're trying to implement in Washington is to have a lift in the special minimum benefit to where it would be 25% above the federal poverty line. Now, what you're receiving right now for your special minimum benefit, if that's all you're receiving, is actually below the federal poverty line. So if they were to implement this change, you would actually be receiving close to right around a $500 increase every single month. That's going to be a $6,000 per year increase. And then they would tie that to inflation, so it would no longer, be at or below the federal poverty line. What you'd be receiving as a special minimum benefit, perhaps you could actually, be able to pay off some of the bills. It still wouldn't be that great, but it would definitely be a lot better than what it currently is. Now, they actually had this provision in a couple of different bills. There's a bill by John Larson in the House. It's called the Social Security 2100 Act. It was very, very popular actually when it was introduced in the last Congress. It had over 200 co-sponsors. But as you can see up on the screen there, all 202 co-sponsors happen to be Democrats. Not a single Republican was on board with that bill. And of course, that's mainly because they would be lifting taxes on those earning, I believe it was above $400,000 per year, and Republicans are against raising taxes even on those who earn $400,000 or above. And of course, that provision was also in a bill by Bernie Sanders called the Social Security Expansion Act. That bill was introduced in both the House and the Senate and had quite a bit of support as well. So obviously, people who are receiving the special minimum benefit, this would be huge for them. This would be a huge, huge increase from what they're currently receiving. Now, the third change that they're currently trying to make in Congress is to lift the cap on payroll taxes for those earning either above $250,000 per year or above $400,000 per year. And of course, this would be to pay for all those increases, starting with the special minimum benefit, and then another increase that we're going to be talking about later on in today's video. Now, Bernie Sanders in his Social Security Expansion Act, he wants to lift the payroll tax cap in which you would pay into the Social Security Trust Fund to income above $250,000. So how it works right now, actually, in 2023, you only pay into the FICA tax for Social Security on the first $160,200 that you earn. That means that someone who earns $160,200 per year is going to be paying the exact same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as someone who earns, let's say, like $10 million per year. That's because a person who earns over $1 million per year is still only going to be paying taxes on the first $160,200 that you earn. So we have lawmakers like Bernie Sanders saying that's extremely unfair. Why are they only paying taxes on the first $160,200 that they earn? They should be paying even more. So he wants to lift that cap to above $250,000 per year, where you'd be paying taxes on the first $160,200 that you earn, and then anything between that and $250,000 you would not be paying taxes on. And then once again, anything above $250,000 per year, you'd once again be paying the Social Security FICA tax. Now, the fourth change that they want to make is to actually increase benefits for all Social Security beneficiaries across the board by $200 per month. Now, this provision is actually in Bernie Sanders' Social Security Expansion Act that was reintroduced this year in both the Senate and the House. And if we look at the bill that was introduced in the House by Jan Schakowsky, currently it does have 31 co-sponsors. However, unfortunately, those all happen to be Democrats. Once again, no Republicans are on board with that bill. That's because in that bill, they would be raising the threshold in which you had to pay the Social Security FICA tax to $250,000 per year. And like I mentioned, Republicans are very against raising taxes. They want to cut taxes, like in that bill where they don't want people who are receiving Social Security benefits to have to pay taxes on that bill. So unless they can pick up more Republicans in the Social Security Expansion Act and the Social Security 2100 Act, those increases with the special minimum benefit being lifted to 25% above the federal poverty line and the $200 increase probably aren't going to happen unless they throw the Republicans a bone and add some other provisions in there that are more Republican Party friendly. Now, the fifth change that they're trying to make in Washington is to actually raise the full retirement age. Currently, it is at 67. Before, it was even younger. I believe it was 64 or 65, but right now it is 67. They want to lift that even higher up to the age of 70. And when I say they, that pretty much mostly involves Republicans, because right now we do, unfortunately, like I said, in 2033, we are going to have a shortfall where if nothing is done, they are going to have to cut benefits by 25%. And right now, you know, in this year compared to, let's say, like 50, 60, or even 70 years ago, people are having fewer kids, so we have fewer workers paying into the trust fund, and right now we have more people reaching or at that retirement age pulling from the trust fund. So since we don't have as many workers paying into the trust fund and we have more people collecting from the trust fund, obviously there's going to be a shortfall. So their solution here is to just be like, hey, well, let's just make people delay in receiving the benefits. That way the trust fund stays healthy. So they want to make people wait all the way to the age of 70 to be able to collect their full retirement benefits. If they want to collect earlier, let's say at 62, they say that's fine. But obviously, if you collect earlier at the age of 62 instead of 67 or 70, you're going to receive a whole lot less than if you just waited until your full retirement age. So basically, they're saying, yeah, if you work a heavy labor job, it might be bad on your back, but hey, you should have to still work until 70 just to keep the trust fund healthy. So obviously, I'm not too big of a fan of that idea. And again, we don't have Democrats on board with that either, although it's very possible they could maybe include that provision in one of their bills, like I said, to throw the Republican Party a bone to make sure that we do have those increases of $200 per month. We will just have to wait and see. Now, another change that they're trying to make is to change the way in which the cost of living adjustments are calculated. So right now they use a inflation method called the CPIW. That is an inflation model for urban wage earners and clerical workers, what they normally spend on, but they want to change it over to something called the CPIE, which much closer measures things that the elderly and seniors spend on. So they say that this would much more accurately reflect the expenses that people who receive Social Security benefits. So, I mean, if you're spending on those types of things, that should be the model that they're actually using. And over the years, it's shown that the CPIE on average has been around 0.2% higher. Now, right now, this is mostly supported by Democrats. We do have some Republicans supporting this. And even though they do have this provision in a couple of different bills, they have it both in the Social Security 2100 Act and also the Social Security Expansion Act, they really just need to probably focus putting this in one bill and try to pass it that way, rather than throwing this provision in with a bunch of other provisions in one single bill. But that's all we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.